All right, welcome back. It's been a while. Holy hoo-ah. Let's talk Maple Leafs versus Blue Jackets season preview. Now, I won't be predicting any winners here. We'll just be analyzing both teams and talking, good versus bad, all that kind of stuff. But before I get started, I just want to say for the last week or so, I've been busy working to launch a new YouTube channel called Crash Test Videos, which may sound familiar to you. Now, on this channel, I'll be rating beer, reviewing books, rating movies, TV shows, and whatever else comes to mind, really. And I'll put up a link down to the channel in the description box along with an eventual link to the video because I'll be launching it on June 14th, which is this coming Sunday. Now, while I'm on that trend, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, which will alert you when my next Crash Test Hockey video will be coming out, which will be about Flames versus Jets season preview. Now, let's talk hockey. I'm going to throw some stats at you to start here. Toronto and Columbus both finished with 81 points in this season. Toronto was seeded 8th, Columbus was seeded 9th. They played each other twice during the 2019-20 season. Both those games came in October. Toronto won the first game 4-1, and Columbus won the second 4-3 in overtime. And I don't think these teams like each other too much either, if you looked at some of the the previous tape. Now, let's talk about the special teams. Toronto was 6th in the league. Columbus was 27th. Toronto was, when it comes to the penalty kill, they were 21st. Columbus was 12th. That's slipped a little bit for them. I think they were second or tied for first last season. Now, an interesting stat that goes with this is starting with penalty minutes. Toronto was 29th in the league, and Columbus was 30th. So neither team takes that many penalties. But this is even more interesting. Opponents' penalty minutes. So how many penalty minutes does the team they're facing get? Well, Toronto, in this category, ranks 30th in the NHL, and Columbus, 31st. Referees just don't seem to like these two teams too much, really, and which means that the slight advantage that Toronto might have on the special teams might not come to fruition so much because the rest will be putting their whistles away. And it's the playoffs, even more so. So that's something to think about. Now, goals for. Toronto is 2nd in the league. Columbus is 28th. Yeah, I think that's one of the worst of any playoff team. Dallas is either a little bit worse or a little bit better. Now, goals against. Toronto was 25th in the league, and Columbus was 4th. Hey, when you have a lot of your offense fly out the door, you got to deal with what you can on D. And Tortorella has done a fantastic job. I mean, they have a great defense, first pair through third pair. But he's got them playing a lot of team defense, after losing, Duchesne and Zingle and Panarin, of course, and then Bobrovsky, their star goaltender. More on that later. Face-off win percentage. Toronto is 3rd in the league. Columbus is 26th. And a couple other interesting notes here. Overtime record. Toronto is 7-4 in overtime, and Columbus is 8-11. One of those wins coming, of course, against them in October. Against Toronto, I mean. Now, when it comes to 20-plus goal scorers, Toronto's got 4 of them. Columbus has 2, and one of them is Zach Werenski, a defenseman. Yeah. When it comes to 50-plus point getters, Toronto has 4, and Columbus has none. 0. Nada. So let's move on. Let's talk about sort of positional play, starting with the goaltenders. Now, beginning with Toronto, Frederik Andersen hasn't had the best of years. Now, in 52 games, he's got a 909 save percentage this season. Quite different. Usually he floats between around 918 save percentage. The first 2/3 of the season were really rough for him. He started to rebound in the end. Of course, he never starts too well either, and we'll get to more on that in a second. But in the playoffs last season, in 7 games, he had a 922 save percentage, which was pretty decent against the Boston Bruins. Of course, they lost, but and in 48 playoff games in the NHL, he's got a 915 save percentage. He had 2 seasons in which he didn't do too well. One of them was his first season in the NHL, and the other was in 2017-18 with the Leafs. Now, then there's Jack Campbell, their new backup, who has played terrifically for them. Hutchinson was just a bad experiment, although he did well for Colorado in like 1 or 2 games. But Campbell came over from LA in a trade, and in 6 games, he had a 915 save percentage. Pretty decent. Now, in 20 games for LA, he only had a 900 save percentage, but LA just played awfully for most of the season. However, not long after he left, they finished the season anyways with like a 6-game win streak. It was just, totally bizarre. Seeing as how where they are in the standings, which is second last in the Pacific. Yeah, anyway. Last season, Campbell had a 928 save percentage in 31 games. And the season before that, a 924 save percentage. So this guy's the real deal, although he has no playoff experience whatsoever. He sat on the bench for all of it. Now, let's talk about Columbus and start with Jonas Korpisalo, who started the season as their starter. Now, he's 26 years old, 6'3", and in 37 games, he had a 911 save percentage, which is pretty good for him. And that's, better than Andersen, right? But the past couple of seasons, he hasn't even had a 900 save percentage, playing mostly behind backup to Bobrovsky. But is it more because the team has been playing better defense in front of him? I'm sure that's part of it. Now, he has no NHL playoff experience whatsoever. Again, he's been sitting on the bench for it. So there's that, I guess. And then there's Mr. I came out of nowhere, Elvis Merzlikins, Latvian goaltender, 6'3". He's 26 as well. And in his first season in North America, period, in 33 games, he had a 923 save percentage. Fantastic. Now, he started off the season a little on the rough side in the first, I want to say 4 or so games. But he obviously really turned it around, and he's been fantastic ever since. Now, how's that going to translate with no playoff experience? I don't know. It's anyone's guess, right? But we'll talk about more of that towards the end of the video. Now, let's talk about defense. When it comes to goals coming from the D-core, Toronto has 23. Columbus has 39. Yeah, an offensive category they lead in. Surprising. Now, the leading goal scorer from the Toronto defensive core is Jake Muzzin with 6 goals. From the Blue Jackets, it's Werenski, who has 20. Surprisingly so. One of the only 2 players with 20 goals on the team. Now, points-wise, Toronto D-core is responsible for 140. From Columbus, it's 134, so it's been less. So one would think Toronto has more balanced scoring in that aspect of things. Now, Tyson Berry of the Leafs led them with 39 points on D, and Riley with 27, as opposed to like this 70-plus he had last season. But he went through a bunch of injuries. Now, for the Blue Jackets, Werenski led their D-core with 40 points, and of course Seth Jones had 30. He also had some injury issues. Otherwise, he might be much higher up, or maybe first on the list. Now, the plus-minus category. I know there's only so much credence you can give it, but these are some crazy numbers I'm about to read you. Toronto's a plus 30 when it comes to their defense. What? I checked that a few times. Like, this has got to be wrong. And Columbus is a minus 2. Huh. I guess the real number you need to look at is, goals against, in which Columbus is far superior. Now, Travis Dermott for the Maple Leafs leads the Leafs on defense with a plus 14. Seth Jones leads Columbus with a plus 10. The worst plus minus goes to Tyson Berry on the Toronto Maple Leafs and rookie Rasmus Sandin with a minus 7. That leads the team, and they're tied with one of their forwards as well. And for Columbus, it's Ryan Murray and Dean Kukin on D, who are tied for a minus 9 on the team. Remember that Ryan Murray also plays the penalty kill, so you got to obviously give him a little bit of slack there. Now, let's talk forwards, and let's start with goals. Toronto has 214 goals from their forward core. Columbus, 141. Do the math there. 60, 70, around 70 goals or so more. Unbelievable. Now, Matthews, of course, leads the Leafs with 47, and Bjorkstrand leads Columbus with 21. Points-wise, Toronto has 492, Columbus 343. That's a 60. That's 100. That's around. That's like a 149-point difference. Amazing. Now, Matthews leads the Leafs with 80. Marner is second with 67. For the Blue Jackets, Pierre-Luc Dubois has 49. And Gustav Nyquist, who they signed as a UFA in the offseason, is second with 42. Plus minus, Toronto is a plus 25 from their forward core. Again, strange numbers here. And Columbus is a minus 15. It just more has to do with anything with their lack of scoring, which offsets their good defense. I would assume that's where that went wrong. Now, Matthews has the best plus minus on the team with a plus 19. For the Blue Jackets, it's left wing Eric Robinson with a plus 10. And then Tavares is tied for worst on the team in the plus minus category with a minus 7. And for the Blue Jackets, it's center Boone Jenner with a minus 14. Now, if we break this all down by position in terms of who has the edge, we start with the goaltending. I couldn't give this to anyone because the Blue Jackets, although they've had a really good tandem going through the regular season, they have got no playoff experience, right? And the playoffs is kind of a different animal altogether. Now, then you look at the Leafs and say, okay, well, Andersen has got plenty of playoff experience, much more. But because of the big layoff, 3+ months, is he going to come back like he usually does at the beginning of the regular season where he's just a really slow starter? Not to mention he had a particularly bad year, for the first half anyway. So that's kind of even to me at this moment. That's really a flip of the coin kind of deal. Maybe I'd give this advantage to Toronto, but anyways, no, I'll call that even. Defense-wise, that's a no-brainer. You got to give it to Columbus. And once Seth Jones gets in a groove, he's dangerous and great at the on D at the same time. So Toronto, when it comes to forwards, they take that hands down. That's 3.5 lines of a murderous row of goal scorers. That's brutal. Even their fourth line can score goals. Now, specialty teams. I got to give this advantage to Toronto too, but who knows how many penalties we're actually going to see, especially in this series. And then lastly, the coaching. Although Keefe is in his first year in the NHL and has done a pretty good job, you got to give this to Tortorella, don't you? That's a no-brainer. 2-time Jack Adam winner. He's got tons of experience. After Tampa Bay, he had a couple of teams there where he had a rough go, but he's really changed his coaching style around with Columbus. Won another, Jack Adams, his second there, and has really clamped down with his team after they lost Duchesne and Zingle and Panarin and even Bobrovsky. And he's turning lemons into pink lemonade. So yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts and how you analyze this series in the comment section down below, especially you Toronto and Blue Jacket fans. And that's it. That's all. Thank you so much for all your support. I really appreciate it. Please stay safe out there. But more than any such thing else, be kind to each other. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.